my lord. Welcome back to another episode of the Northern Steel Podcast. I'm your host, Dominic Paskowski, and I'm running solo dolo today because if you are a listener of the podcast, you know that Chris was having his baby, and congrats to Chris, baby's here. Healthy baby girl, and he's doing great, resting at home with him and his wife. And I'll be taking it solo, and kind of a crazy time to be solo because free agency was absolutely nuts. Absolutely insane. So many things happened, including so many things happened to the Steelers. So because this is going to be by myself, this might be a little shorter episode today. But hey, if you're with the Steelers news, you know what's been going on. It's going to be a one person's opinion. That's how podcasts go sometimes. Is it fun to listen to? Man, who knows? But we're going to do a one-person podcast. So free agency started last week, and even the day before free agency started, it already kicked off with a bang as the Steelers signed Russell Wilson for $1.2 million, the vet minimum, because the Broncos are still paying him $39 million guaranteed. That already set in motion a lot of things. But before we get into the Steelers' moves, let's do a quick recap of a lot of the moves that went around the NFL this week, because tons of things happened, and it's not done yet, okay? There's a large list here. I got my phone. So if you've missed these things, I kind of put down every player I thought was notable to put down, and it's a long list. So first we have Jerry Jeudy being traded to the Browns for a late round pick, and then, which is a decent pickup for sure, but for them to then give him a contract with most of it guaranteed is asinine. It really is, and it's classic Browns there. DeAndre Swift went to the Bears, Tony Pollard to the Titans, Gabe Davis to the Jaguars. The Jaguars did not retain Calvin Ridley. We'll get to that later. And Mitch Morse to the Jaguars. Mitch Morse was a center the Steelers were looking at, brought him in for a visit, and could not capitalize, unfortunately, because his contract was one of the lowest ones of the center groups. I think that paints a picture that's going to be very obvious. The Steelers are going to target a center in the draft, but we'll see how it goes. There's not any centers left, but I think that's the only option they have left now. So, Lloyd Cushenberry, another center to the Titans, one who I thought they might grab after signing Russell Wilson, since that was Russell's center in Denver. Makes too much sense, but he also costed way too much. Christian Wilkins, big-time defensive tackle from Miami, went to the Raiders. Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby, look out for that duo next year. Darnell Savage, safety from the Packers, went to the Jaguars. Josh Jacob went to the Packers in a surprising move, and everyone was like, whoa, Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones? What a running back tandem, the best tandem in the league. And then they quickly cut Aaron Jones right after that. Bryce Huff to the Eagles. Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. Kirk Cousins was a name some Steelers fans wanted, what he'd pay. Kirk Cousins has one of the best agents out there, on par or rivaling Sam Bradford's agent. At least Kirk Cousins can perform somewhat to a degree. I mean, he is good. He has one playoff war in the past 12 years, but Kirk Cousins got a 4-year, $180 million deal with a $50 signing bonus and $100 million of it guaranteed at 36 years old, coming off a torn Achilles. Yeah, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. But the Falcons made a lot of moves, so look for that team. I think the team could still be exciting, depending on how Kirk plays coming off of his injury. And the Steelers play the Falcons next year, and that was a kind of a game I was chalking up as a win, and it's going to be a little harder now. We'll get to more on that later. After that, we have Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles. That's a big move for the Eagles, and a bad move for the Giants, who decided to pay Daniel Jones instead, and have already been rumored to look at a different quarterback. That's just poor mismanagement. Blake Cashman went to the Vikes, hometown kid, Eden Prairie, shout out. Jeff Okudah to the Texans, one time a top 5 cornerback. Xavier McKinney to the Packers. Devin Singletary, running back, going to the Giants to replace Saquon Barkley. Good luck with that. Gus Edwards, Ravens rival, to the Chargers to play with the other Harbaugh brother. Geno Stone, another Raven, to the Bengals. Gardner Minshew to the Raiders for a lot of money, a lot more than we paid for Russell Wilson, I'll tell you that much. Leonard Floyd to the 49ers. Chidobe Awuzie to the Tennessee Titans. Bengals losing a key piece on their defense there. Marcus Davenport to the Lions, and then Carlton Davis to the Lions on a trade. So they pick up Marcus Davenport. The thing with the Lions, especially while keeping Ben Johnson, is that their offense was great, and they've kept a lot of those pieces, but their defense was really struggling. So now they got Marcus Davenport on that D line that helps. Then they got Carlton Davis, one of a great cornerback from the Buccaneers in a trade. So look for them to try to keep improving that side of the ball, especially since our boy Cam Sutton, who is a Lions player, has a warrant out for his arrest. Don't know what's going on there. Not really Steeler news, but just thought I'd throw it out there that they're going to be looking at more defensive players. Then Brian Burns, the Panthers D lineman, in a huge trade to the Giants. I think the Giants traded a second and a fifth. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. It's not a Steeler news, so it's not as important. But and they give him a big contract extension too. Crazy trade, especially when you think about the Panthers really just kind of mismanaging that situation. Now they do some nice things coming down the line here when I get to them to try to make up for some of these bad choices. But their trade last year in the draft for Bryce Young, giving the Bears everything that they're getting for that, and then the Panthers being offered 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns last year and giving up on that, and now doing a second and a fifth for Brian Burns this time around. It is very poor mismanagement by the Panthers, and not really surprising why they've struggled as much as they have. But they might make some moves down the line here, as I will get to. Austin Eckler, the Chargers' longtime running back, to the Commanders. Ronald Darby to the Jags. Azari Al-Shaair, outside linebacker for the Titans a long time, to the Texans. Austin Brewer, another center, to the Titans. Jordan Hicks to the Browns. Jordan Hicks, Minnesota Viking guy here, unfortunately on the Browns now. Zach Moss to the Bengals, because the Bengals traded Joe Mixon to the Texans. And then, which is a good move because I think it cost a 6th-rounder. But then the Texans gave Joe Mixon a 3-year contract extension, which is a little crazy. Joe Mixon has really fallen off lately, but maybe he can resurrect his career. It's hard. It's tough to say because you like to say, well, he could resurrect his career with a good quarterback like C.J. Stroud, but they had Joe Burrow, and he still struggled. So these past couple of years, but that was what happened there. Zach Moss to Bengals, Mixon to the Texans, Javon Kinlaw to the Jets, Sam Darnold to the Vikings after losing Kirk Cousins. They decided to go with Darnold to supplement that instead, but I think we'll still be targeting a quarterback in the draft, and we'll get to why. Darius Williams to the Rams, Aaron Jones, who I mentioned earlier, the Packers' longtime running back, who's been so good for them. After he was cut, decides to go on a little revenge tour and signs a 1-year deal with the Vikings. Mike Gesicki to the Bengals. Shaq Barrett to the Dolphins. Jameis Winston to the Browns. Hilarious. Darnell Mooney to the Falcons. There's one of those weapons I was talking about. Darnell Mooney to the Falcons. They have Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts. Nyheim Hines to the Browns to try to get some depth in the running back. Derrick Henry to the Ravens. That was a big one. That is a move that makes a lot of sense. You could see it coming from a mile away. Look, let's be honest here. Derrick Henry's good, and he's been good for like 4 or 5 years now. I'm not really scared of that, to be honest. The Ravens have always had a good run game. Derrick Henry's always been good, but I feel like we've always been able to kind of stuff Derrick Henry down. He's also gotten older. He's gotten a little slower. That doesn't really like scare me, but it also is a good move for them. It really is, especially because I think he's probably their best running back they've had in a long time because J.K. Dobbins can't stay healthy. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And Ravens, they're a good organization. They know what they're doing. So Dante Fowler to the Commanders, Jeremy Chin to the Commanders. Commanders got a lot of people. Josie Jewell, a linebacker that people thought the Steelers might grab. He went to the Panthers. Daniil Hunter, Vikings sack leader last year and second place sack leader. He went to the Texans on a 2-year fully guaranteed deal, I believe. Jordan Poyer, longtime safety for the Bills, going to division rival Dolphins. How do you pronounce this guy's name? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Back to the Eagles. So leaving the Lions, back to the Eagles. So Lions still need some more defensive help there. I'm going to skip I'll get to this. Eric, I'll get to what the Panthers, this other trade the Panthers made, but that's also Steeler news, so I'll get there when we get there. Eric Kendricks to the Cowboys. Cowboys' only move, I think, in free agency. Jadeveon Clowney to the Panthers. And Mason Rudolph to the Titans. Thank you, Mason. Good luck at Tennessee. He could win the starting job there. He really could. Calvin Ridley to the Titans. So now Mason Rudolph got Treylon Burks and Calvin Ridley to throw to. Bobby Wagner to the Commanders. Joe Flacco to the Colts. Browns lost their best quarterback. Unfortunate for them. Desmond Ridder to the Arizona Cardinals in a trade. So one quarterback from that draft class traded. Rondale Moore to the and it was a player for player. So it was Desmond Ridder to the Cardinals, and then Rondale Moore, a receiver for the Cardinals, to the Falcons. So again, the Falcons: Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Kirk Cousins. A lot stronger team this time around, and also head coach Raheem Morris. A lot stronger team. Look out for the Falcons, especially if Kirk can play the way he can play. Still coming off the injury. Look out for them. DJ Reader to the Lions. The Lions get another defensive line piece. Ray McLeod, Steelers legend, to... Ooh, I put the wrong team here. Well, he went somewhere else. It wasn't the 49ers. He was already in the 49ers. I don't know where he went. So that's my bad there. Sam Howell, Commanders quarterback, got traded to the Seahawks. So that's two quarterbacks from the 2021 class traded, and we're not done yet with that. Eric Armstead to the Jags. Devin Bush, Steelers legend, to the Browns. So we get to watch him not tackle Najee twice a year. Curtis Samuel to the Bills. Devin White, linebacker from the Buccaneers, part of the Super Bowl championship team, to the Eagles for a 1-year, $5 million deal. I mean, something we could have done. We did something else instead, but I still think we could have made that move. But regardless, I think that's a decent pickup. Keenan Allen traded to the Bears. And to supplement that, the Chargers also cut Mike Williams. So the Chargers lost all the receivers. Their wide receiver one is now Quentin Johnson, who had a really rough rookie year. And they cut Mike Williams, and they trade away Keenan Allen to the Bears. Bears starting to load up on offensive playmakers for Justin Fields or Caleb Williams. Spoiler alert, it's not Justin Fields. We'll find out where he's going soon. Hollywood Brown, remember him? Went to the Chiefs. Automatically number one receiver almost to the Chiefs. They just won a Super Bowl without any wide receivers. Now they have a serviceable one. Cam Curl, rising safety from the Commanders, went to the Rams. Here's when I talked about that Vikings, about maybe getting a quarterback. The Vikings and Texans traded, and they traded draft capital, and the Vikings received another first-round pick. So the Vikings have number 23 and number 11 in the upcoming draft. Could use those in a package deal to move up even higher to pick the quarterback that they want to pick. We'll find out. Aaron Donald retired. So give it up for the legend. Congrats, Aaron Donald, on a crazy good career. And rest up. Jimmy G to the Rams. Tyron Smith to the Jets. Good tackle for Aaron Rodgers to not tear his Achilles again. Jerome Baker to the Seahawks. Chase Young to the Saints. Alexander Madison to the Raiders. Dobbs to the Niners. Trent Brown to the Bengals. And Mike Williams, who I just mentioned from the Chargers, went to the Jets. Jets kind of loading up there to hopefully Aaron Rodgers can play a full season, and they're trying to show that they want to compete next year with Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams. They got another tackle. They have some earlier draft picks because they struggled this past year. They might get some more, a late round draft pick. They might trade, Zach Wilson. So, but that is just the list of normal players, in my opinion, that happened in free agency, which is a lot. Just an insane amount of things happened in this free agency. So the NFL is going to look a lot different next year. And that's still not all the biggest moves, because I wanted to save the Steelers moves for last. So there's still big moves that were made. And let's get into the Steelers and what they did. So I don't know if we talked about who was cut before free agency started. I think Chris and I went over it, but if in case you don't remember, we did cut Mason Cole, Mitch Trubisky, Pat Pete, Allen Robinson, Presley Harvin, Chuck Okorafor. Mitch went to the Bills. Chuck Okorafor went to the Patriots. That's it out of those players. Let's talk about... What should we talk about first? Let's talk about... We'll just talk about it all. We'll go in order, okay? So... The Steelers' first free agency move they made was getting Russell Wilson, a $1.2 million deal where Broncos are paying the $39 million guaranteed on a one-year deal. Hard to be mad about that. Really hard to be mad about that. I mean, regardless of what you think about Russell, about how he's played the past 2 years in Denver, he was somebody I kind of wanted when they were talking about the trade, but I never wanted to trade the amount the Broncos did for him. And now we get him 2 years later on a player who wants to prove himself at 36 years old for $1 million. Granted, Kirk Cousins just got traded at 36 years old off an Achilles injury, not traded, signed for $180 million. Russell Wilson's $1.2 million. No matter what way you swing it, it does not hurt. Because if he either pans out and it's a $1 million deal this year and they win some games and they finally win a playoff game and he has a renaissance and then they can pay him more, or he sucks. And that was $1 million. That's all it was. And then you can move on from there. But we're getting Russell Wilson meant we had a quarterback room of Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett. Kenny, when that move went down, I mentioned, hey, you know what? There's a way to look at this right now, and because it sounds like Russell Wilson's going to be the starter. He's going to get starting reps. Everyone kept talking about Russell Wilson's going to start. All the players were excited. Cam Hayward was vouching to sign Russell Wilson. Minka Fitzpatrick was. T.J. Watt was. Players are actively recruiting Russell Wilson because I think they're just tired of losing games. They're tired of the offensive output we've been getting, which is fair, right? We've talked a lot on this channel or a lot on this podcast about Kenny Pickett and believing in him and wanting to see him succeed. And I think you got to give a quarterback like that 3 years, especially with the OC being as bad as it was. They should have got rid of Matt Canada last year. And unfortunately, keeping him handcuffed them to the situation that they were in. And now with a new offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, depending on how you feel about that, hopefully it pans out well. I was hoping to give him one more year to prove himself. Now, as everyone's talking about Russell Wilson being the starter, if I'm Kenny Pickett, this should be motivating, right? You should be motivated to try harder, to have because I believe it was going to be a genuine quarterback competition. Sure, Russell's going to get first team snaps. Sure, Russell might even win that competition, right? But I genuinely believed it was going to be a quarterback competition. And if I'm Russell Wilson, I'm thinking, hey, you know what? Arthur Smith, one of the things he likes to do is middle of the field passes. And that's something I struggled with, whether that was because of Matt Canada or not. When Matt Canada was gone, I threw middle of the field all the time to Pat Freiermuth. That's something I'm going to work on. And I'm going to try and impress the coaching staff and gain back the respect of my teammates by my play and my play alone. And I'm going to work towards winning this quarterback job and be motivated, right? Unfortunately, that was not the attitude received by the organization. Whether you want to believe the Steelers did them wrong by lying to Kenny, by saying he was going to be first team or not be first team, regardless of what you want to say, after the deal was signed and they mentioned that Russell was going to get first team reps in training camp, mind you, not even guaranteed anything after that, in training camp because he's the veteran, Kenny requested a trade. Instead of competing, instead of sucking it up, he requested a trade. And a trade he was granted. He was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles for a third-round pick. The best option we could have got there, because a third-round pick is pretty high for a player of Kenny's stats, even though I had a lot of faith in Kenny. And he gets to go to his favorite team growing up. He loves the Eagles, so he gets to go there. However, it just wasn't a good choice. It really wasn't. Kenny, regardless of how the whole thing went down, if he just would have had a better attitude, I mean, it's a 1 year deal for Russell, $1.2 million. It's not even a guarantee that he's going to be solid. It's not even a guarantee he's going to be good. You had a way better chance of playing and trying to get their spot back by staying on the Steelers and being competitive and being a team player. But instead, you give up on them and you quit. And you want to have this transfer idea like college. And now you're going to Philadelphia, where Jalen Hurts signed a contract extension through 2027. And you're definitely not beating out Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry. So that's the bed we lie in, right? Where as much as we loved Kenny around here, we wanted to see him succeed, things kind of went down a sour path. I don't like the way if it's true the Steelers lied to him, I don't like the way that kind of went down. But at the same time, I don't like the way that Kenny responded to it. And he's gone. That's just the way it goes. So then our quarterback room turned to a room of just Russell Wilson. Kenny Pickett gone, getting a third-round pick. We'll go back, going back in free agency a little bit. When I mentioned that I would like to see the Steelers sign Devin White for that one-year contract, well, they still signed a linebacker, a very good one, in my opinion. They signed Patrick Queen from the Ravens for a 3-year, $41 million deal, I think. Largest contract they've given out in franchise history in free agency. And, I mean, ecstatic. Super pumped that they did that. Patrick Queen is a great linebacker. I know a lot of Ravens fans or other fans will tell you he wasn't good until Roquan Smith went there. I don't think that's true. He made a lot of plays without Roquan's help. He he got better, but it was more of a mentor situation. Now he can be the stud here. If Cole Holcomb can recoup, what's the word I'm looking for here? If he can recover the way most do, hopefully the injury is not as bad as it is thought to be, then that duo of those two plus Landon Roberts is going to be very, very good. Now, and they could also draft a linebacker in this upcoming draft. We'll talk about those profiles in the coming weeks before the draft about what linebackers look good to us. But, I mean, Patrick Queen and Cole Holcomb, I mean, that's solid. Patrick Queen's really fast. It brings some more speed to the defense. I couldn't be more excited to have Patrick Queen. He's ready to be a villain role. I'm pumped to get him. That was a great move by the Steelers. So right off the bat, getting Russell Wilson, Patrick Queen, solid moves. They also signed Cameron Johnston, punter from the Texans, to a $4 million guaranteed contract. Guaranteed, makes him the fourth highest paid punter in the NFL. Had to be done. Presley Harvin was not cutting it. Cameron Johnston's got a way better stats. Kind of the middle of the road on some things, but it's better than last. And good pickup. Good, solid pickup. Then we got another trade to talk about. This one also bummed me out at the time, but we're going to see if the vision of Omar Khan and what he wants to do with this. The Steelers traded Deontay Johnson, the wide receiver 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, to the Carolina Panthers for a pick and for Dante Jackson. The trade, I believe, was for we gained a 6th-round pick and Dante Jackson. And we traded them Deontay, and we got 2 7s, and we traded them Deontay and a 4th, I think. Or maybe we traded the 4th with the Eagles. I don't remember, but it looked like that trade looked like a lost trade, in my opinion, and it still kind of does right now until we kind of see the puzzle that Omar Khan's trying to put together and see what the plan is. But them trading Deontay Johnson and gaining Dante Jackson, at least at that structure, seems rough because as much as Deontay kind of pisses me off in a sense where the routes he runs sometimes are wrong and his effort is lacking and, his drop rate's gone way down, but it seems like he still drops balls in key moments and he kept pissing me off. He was still wide receiver 1, and he was still he's still a good player in that sense, and it wasn't a hole that I had on our roster going into the draft. I wasn't really worried about wide receiver. I kind of figured we might grab one, but wasn't really worried about one. And then that became a huge hole because then it becomes George Pickens, Calvin Austin, and nobody else. That's really worth mentioning, right? So then wide receiver becomes a huge hole. And then we got Dante Jackson, who is going to be cornerback 2 to Joey Porter. And I know this was 6 years ago, but the only thing I remember about Dante Jackson is going to Pittsburgh and watching the Steelers play the Panthers on Thursday Night Football. I've seen that game live and watching AB torch this man nonstop. And Dante Jackson's fast. He runs probably one of the fastest 40 times on the team at this point. I think it was like a 4.3 something, 4.32. He's a very fast player. He's had some injuries that have hindered him down, but I wasn't thrilled about that because I just don't think he might be that good. Now the caveat, if you want to look on the bright side, if you want to be optimistic, maybe he can be better on our defense. Maybe because he's with the Panthers and their defense is not very good and their team isn't very good, he's struggled more, right? When you pair him up with our defense, when you have Minka out there in the secondary and you have TJ Highsmith blitzing the quarterback and there's less time for them to throw, maybe that will work out better for him and Dante Jackson can have a year like maybe Levi Wallace had, I don't know, in his first year with the Steelers, which was a solid year. And I know he was not good last year. That's why he's not on the team now, but maybe that could be a situation like that. But off first rip, it did not look very good as a trade that we won there. Dante Jackson also had a huge cap hit, $10 million, and so did Deontay was $10 million, so there was no really difference there. However, they have restructured it to make his cap hit $4 million, so that's good. So at least they helped that out a little bit, so they had more room to play with. But as of right now, Dante Jackson is CB2. I still think they need another cornerback, especially if they want to just roll with those two. They need another slot at least. So we'll see what they do there. But losing Deontay did kind of hurt in a sense. But Deontay wanted out. He requested a trade. Same with Kenny Pickett. And when you have players who are requesting trades, you don't want hostages. You want volunteers. And they had to go. That's just what they're doing. Omar Khan's not playing games. He really is not. They re-signed Christian Kuntz, the legend, long snapper. Re-signed Miles Killebrew, Pro Bowl special teams player. They signed Deshaun Elliott, an old ex-Raven as well, played for Miami last year as strong safety since the Steelers got rid of Keanu Neal. Oh, that wasn't on my cut either. Oh, whoopsies. They signed Deshaun Elliott. Deshaun Elliott's a classic box safety, hard hitter. He's got a good attitude. His press conference was part of the Steelers logo about why he wanted to play with the Steelers, because that's why. I'm excited to see where he goes. Now, it's not like the huge safety prospect we're all looking for, which was Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons, by the way, is still out there and available. But it was, I think it lets Minka stay in his role at free safety and not move him around as much. And that is what's important, because Minka did not play as well last year because he had to move around way too much in the scheme that they were trying to apply with the different safety skill sets they had. And that was one of the reasons why he wanted to be traded out of Miami in the first place, was because he was being moved out of position. And if that continues, I fear Minka would get unhappy again and want to be traded out. And this move with Deshaun and the way Deshaun Elliott plays in his skill set allows Minka Fitzpatrick to stay where he succeeds most. And I think that is what's important, and that's what's exciting. Montravius Adams got re-signed, which is good. Some more depth at the defensive tackle. Van Jefferson the Steelers signed Van Jefferson, wide receiver from the Rams, also a fast guy, runs a 4.3 speed, young receiver. Helped the Rams win the Super Bowl, but his really fell off last year as the Rams had Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Tutu Atwell to throw to, so he became lost in the rotation. Van Jefferson does not replace the hole left by Deontay. He does not become wide receiver 2 underneath George Pickens. They still need a wide receiver, but it does help with depth. It does help with receiving options that we could have, just a speedy guy. They lost Deontay in the trade, like we talked about. They lost Kenny Pickett, they lost Mason Rudolph, and they lost Armon Watts in free agency. And that's all they've lost. They have a lot of players that they're not going to sign back, like Levi Wallace, potentially Quan Alexander because of his injury. I'm trying to think of some more. Patrick Peterson, they have players that they they're not going to re-sign in free agency, but those players haven't been signed by anybody else. So, I don't have them considered as losses yet until they're gone, but they're also not on our team. And I don't imagine we sign them back, except for maybe Patrick Peterson, because he has mentioned that he would like to come back and as a third or fourth string cornerback to be more of like a mentor role, but he likes playing with the Steelers. He knows he's kind of cooked in his age, so maybe they bring him back because they can make his contract a lot less. Who knows? Well, I don't think that would happen until after the draft anyways. And then as we're sitting there thinking, kind of happy with this free agency, but a little bummed about the Kenny Pickett trade because our quarterback room was just one quarterback, and then we're a little bummed about the Deontay Johnson trade. Then Omar Khan makes another trade and trades for Justin Fields. So all throughout the offseason, when a lot of Steelers fans who were upset that they might go into the offseason with Kenny and Mason only. And people talked about, is it going to be Russell Wilson? Is it going to be Justin Fields? It's both. They signed both those players. They get Russell Wilson, and then they traded for Justin Fields. They traded for a 6th-round pick next year, a 2025 6th-round pick. That's a conditional 4th if Justin Fields plays half of the playing time for the season. That's an insane deal, especially when they talked about Justin Fields potentially going for a 2nd-round pick. And I knew he was not going to go that high because the Bears had no leverage. Everyone knows that the Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. Everyone knows they're going to draft Caleb Williams. They have no leverage. That's not even like they could say, hey, we're getting rid of our franchise quarterback because you're drafting a new one. Everyone knows it. And I think that they probably had a better deal. There's rumors the Steelers offered a trade earlier and then pulled it out because nobody was interested in trading for Justin Fields, and they probably had a better deal that they didn't take, and then the market just became nothing. And now it's a 2025 6th-round pick for a potential 4th. Omar Khan's done it again, fleecing the Bears once more, pretty much trading away Claypool and a 6th-round pick for Joey Porter and Justin Fields is crazy. It's crazy. And that brought a lot of excitement back into how I felt about the team. A quarterback room of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, again, which I believe is going to be a quarterback competition. Russell Wilson will get first-team reps. He will get the first-team reps in training camp and in OTAs and probably preseason as well, too. But Justin Fields will be right there. And let's face it, you guys, the Steelers, by the way they're talking about things, the way Art Rooney talked about the end of the season, the way Mike Tomlin is just accepting that the Steelers' way is changing, the way Omar Khan is doing things way out of the Steelers' realm and actively trying to make this team better. Will it work? Who knows? But he's actively trying. The Steelers are not going to just sit by and let Russell Wilson play bad. If Justin Fields is playing good in other situations, they're going to make the switch if that comes to it. So, yes, I'm excited for both of them because they're both cheap options. They set us up for now, and they set us up for the future, potentially, if things work out. So, if Russell Wilson's playing good, that's great. We got a quarterback that's playing good. He's winning ball. If he's not playing good, and Justin Fields has been competing well with him, you got Justin Fields right there. You can throw him in there. So, I think that's a really, really, really solid move, especially after having to get rid of Kenny. And it makes the quarterback room of Russell and Justin Fields better, in my opinion. And we move on. And now we got Russell and Justin. And now when I'm talking about the excitement of, like, we have all these other moves to make still, like wide receiver, Omar Khan might not be done. There's rumors going on right now, because they started yesterday, that the Steelers are trying to potentially trade for Brandon Ayuk or Terry McLaurin. Huge moves. Absolutely huge moves. And who knows what the return will be. Steelers fans are speculating with Brandon Ayuk, it could be a first-round pick plus. With Terry McLaurin, it could be a first-round pick swap to the second round. Who knows what it's going to be, right? Omar Khan has been proving me wrong day in and day out by the way he conducts business, the way he makes moves. And at this point, man, I know it's only been 2 years, but I got to trust him because he's making the team better. He's tired of the Steelers losing as well. He's making the necessary moves to make them better. Now, when I was sad about Kenny Pickett, sure, because I want to have him 3 years, but like we could be like the Giants who are giving Daniel Jones 6 years and they aren't happy with him. Kenny wanted to be traded. Omar said, all right, you're traded. We'll get Justin Fields now for nothing. And Omar Khan, man, he's not like Steelers of old. He does not play around. He's actively trying to make the team better. And will it work? Time will tell, right? I do think coaching is a big part of it. I do think if they can have good coaching, this could be an elite team because I think the roster has been good, right? But time will tell if this will help out the team. And Omar Khan, at the very least, is making moves. It's catching up with the rest of the NFL, and we'll see how that works. So it's a very exciting time right now in Pittsburgh. We'll see if they make some trades. Next week, we're going to talk about some draft profiles coming up. If you're still thinking about like, whoa, this was a lot of information that you just threw at me super fast because you talk fast and it pisses me off. I'm sorry. That's just how I am. I'm excited about football. I also talk fast. The Steelers' holes that they still have, in my opinion, are tackle, because I don't want Dan Moore. Center, probably more important. Wide receiver, as of right now, until we find out. Cornerback, safety. And then it trickles down to D-line and linebacker at that point. So starting next week, we're gonna start going through our draft profiles. We'll probably do tackle. We'll probably do tackle. Could potentially do tackle and center at the same time, just because it is a harder group to gauge. Kind of go by some quick stats. You can really get to watch tape on those guys as well. So we'll probably go by tackles and centers. Kind of make our list there. We'll go through some wide receivers at some point, depending on what they decide to do here in the upcoming days or weeks with Brandon Ayuk and the Terry McLaurin rumors. And we'll go through some cornerbacks, slot and outside. We'll go through some linebackers. We'll go through some D linemen, and that's the kind of moves I think they're going to start making here. So it's exciting time. Free agency offseason has been crazy. It's going to be crazy up until the draft. And if you like listening to this podcast, if you like the kind of energy, every year we stream the draft. We show a live reaction, and this year I got some more special planned. We're going to be streaming it on youtube.com. Follow us on YouTube. We're going to have a big stream with other fans of football there, probably Viking fans. We're going to make a big draft board. It's going to be fun. Hang out with us, make your predictions, make your opinions on what's happening in the draft. We can all hang out together. It's going to be an awesome time. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Grubhub, and on Chuck E. Cheese Playhouse Rewards. Thank you for listening to the podcast. This has been episode 68. My name is Dominic. See you next week. Maybe with Chris. Maybe not. He's snuggling a baby. Thanks for listening. Go Steelers. Deuces.